What happens to the man who kneels only before his own reflection? And when pride grows larger than the soul itself, who corrects it? Silence answers, but few have the courage to listen to it until the end. We live in a time where ruin does not come from weakness, but from an excess of strength. Strength misdirected, impulses left untempered, fame that was never earned. Today, the name of the fall is no longer mistake. It is pride. Pride does not scream, it whispers. It knows how to hide where no one looks. In the vanity you call purpose, in the certainty you insist on calling faith. In anger disguised as justice, like an invisible serpent, it coils around the most sacred places of the soul, without hurry, without guilt, without mercy. And by the time we realize it, we are already too far gone to return without bleeding. But what if the pain you feel is not punishment? What if it's just a shattered reflection, showing you what you refuse to see? Perhaps what you call God's silence is just the echo of your own pride, screaming alone. Stay until the end of this video, because today, you won't just hear a story, you will see yourself in it. You'll find traces of yourself between the lines of heaven and in the shadows of the abyss. Today, we will uncover the Stoic message behind destroy pride before it destroys you, the brutal lesson of Lucifer on pride. Before the earth, before time, before man drew his first breath, there was the sound of harmony. Heaven was not just a place, it was a perfect order, upheld by silence, light, and obedience. Within that order, among countless celestial beings, there was one who shone brighter than the rest. His name was Lucifer, the light bearer, the morning star, beautiful beyond human comprehension, shaped with wisdom, grace, and perfection. Lucifer did not merely reflect divine glory, he was, in the eyes of heaven, a spectacle unto himself. But even beauty can hide invisible cracks. What grows too much within a being begins to press against the limits of what it can contain. And within Lucifer, a subtle thought began to form, not a shout, a whisper. Why do I bow? Why him and not me? If I carry such light within me, why can't I be the source? Pride never appears as evil. It disguises itself as a legitimate question. That's how it begins. A spark of comparison, a flicker of vanity that seems harmless. But there, in the heart of one who had everything, grew the desire for more. More than he should have, more than he could hold, more than was his. Doubt turned to desire, desire turned to ambition, and ambition became rebellion, with a third of the angels at his side. Lucifer rose against the divine order. It was not a war as we imagine, with swords and shouts. It was something colder, more internal, a revolt of the mind against the Creator, a silent denial of his own origin. But heaven is no place for vanity. In the realm where everything has its place, even splendor, chaos is not accepted as a possibility. And so, in an instant beyond our measure of time, Lucifer fell, not with tears, not with apologies. He fell like lightning, swift, sharp, undeniable. And with him fell the reflection of what could have been, had he chosen the path of humility, banished from splendor to shadow, from the heights to oblivion. Imagine the sound of a heart realizing, too late, that it had crossed the line. Heaven, which once applauded him with respectful silence, was now silent in another way, irreversible. But Lucifer's punishment was not merely being cast out, it was being cast inward, into himself, into an abyss with no bottom, no walls. The true fall was not from height, but from identity. Wounded pride is a prison no one sees. There are no chains, no cell, only echo. And in that echo, a voiceless confession. It was me who dug this hole with my own hands. It was me who mistook brilliance for glory. It was me who wanted to be worshipped when I should have kept worshipping. Pride is like that. It promises glory, but delivers ruin. It wears the mask of worthiness, but demands the price of disconnection. And when everything crumbles, it hides, leaving you alone with the shards, and waits to see if you still have the courage to look in the mirror. But Lucifer's true punishment was not the fall, it was continuing to exist, watching other men repeat his downfall, being a silent witness to every person who, ruled by ego, turns away from all that was sacred, not by force, but by arrogance. Lucifer watches. In every contest of vanity, in every inflated ego that refuses to hear no, in every hardened heart that will not forgive, in every mind that would rather win an argument than preserve a bond, He watches and smiles because his legacy is not hell, it is the mirror. Arrogance never begins as a shout, it always slips in. Quietly it dresses itself in noble arguments, speaks as if it were truth, hides behind good intentions, it grows in the absence of limits, and by the time we realize, we are already falling just as he fell. Maybe you think this story is distant, ancient, mythological, but if you look closely, you'll see that it's about you, about us, who hasn't felt the pain of not being recognized, who hasn't raged at the thought they deserved more, who hasn't mistaken silence for injustice, and believed God was against them, when in truth, it was just pride screaming too loudly. Lucifer's story is not just about angels, it's about what happens when we trade submission for sovereignty, service for status, gratitude for comparison. Heaven was made for those who know their place, not because they are weak, but because they choose the discipline of not wanting more than they should, because true strength is not in rising higher than all others, it's in knowing when to stop before the fall. It's in mastering your own impulse before it becomes a decision. And maybe, just maybe, your greatest fall can still be avoided. But for that, you must look in the mirror with courage, acknowledge what Lucifer refused to acknowledge, that pride is hell's sweetest voice, and that humility is the only way back home. Lucifer did not fall because he was wounded, he fell because he refused to accept the place given to him. His pain did not come from injustice, but from comparison. And as Epictetus would say, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Lucifer's reality had not changed. He was still beautiful, still radiant, but the way he began to see himself and the world around him, that changed everything. What was once a gift became insufficient. What was once glory turned to resentment. And so begins the fall of any man, not with real loss, but with the birth of selfish discontent. This is where Seneca steps in, saying, pride does not merely want to be better, wants others to be lesser. Lucifer believed he deserved more, but what is this more, if not a distorted reflection of his own vanity? He poisoned himself with the illusion that worth is tied to position, and so, he dug his own abyss with his hands, as do all those who base their value on what the world can take away. This is the disease of self-deception. It is looking at oneself through warped eyes. It is believing your greatness depends on constant comparison. It is living as if every victory of another is a threat to your own light. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, a man at the top of the world, wrote to himself in silence, "Remember how small you are," and that is liberating. He understood what Lucifer refused, that recognizing one's smallness is not humiliation, it is liberation. It is knowing you can be great without needing to dominate. You can be strong without needing to win. You can shine without needing to dim anyone else's light. This is what the Stoics call the virtue of resilience, not the stubborn, inflated pride of resistance, but mature, restrained, silent resilience, the strength of a spirit that does not unravel at others' success, that does not crumble when unnoticed, and that stands firm, even when forgotten, because it knows true worth lies in character, not position. Lucifer lost himself by wanting to be more than he should, but the wise man, the Stoic, knows the danger of crossing the boundary of necessity. He knows the universe has an order, and to place oneself above that order is to turn against oneself. Ecclesiastes, echoing this wisdom, warned, "Everything is vanity and a chasing after the wind." Pride convinces us that something out there will complete us, but the Stoic truth is simple and brutal. Nothing out there has the power to make you whole, and the more you try to fill yourself with status, validation, and control, the deeper you dig your own downfall. True strength is the soul that accepts its limits with dignity, that rejoices in others' good, that fulfills its duty without needing to be seen. Stoic wisdom is not cold, it is sober. It is the antidote to the poison of vanity. Because in the end, as the ancients said, he who knows himself is enough, and he who desires the throne, without first mastering his own ego, will inevitably fall. And you, are you living in your own invisible prison? Maybe no one has overthrown you, no one has stripped you of a title, a home, a relationship. And yet, there's a weight on your shoulders, a silence that screams, a sense that something has been lost, and deep down, you know you were the one who turned the key from the inside, locking yourself out of your own soul. How many times have you insisted on being right, even at the cost of peace? How many conversations have you cut short because you couldn't bear contradiction? How many times have you mistaken others' silence for disrespect when it was just a boundary? Perhaps the prison has no bars, but it is built with every no you refused to accept, with every criticism that wounded you more than it should have, with every praise you expected and never received. Is the pain you've carried for so long really just pain? Or is it also unhealed pride? Who betrayed you and you still haven't forgiven? What injustice did you swear to forget, yet revisit in your mind like running a finger over an open scar? Pride is treacherous. It does not announce itself as vanity. It presents itself as justice, as dignity, as self-care, but often it is just fear in disguise, fear of seeming weak, fear of admitting you were wrong too, fear of stepping down from the pedestal you built for yourself. What if this silence that unsettles you is not abandonment? What if it is your preparation? What if this time when everything seems still, unanswered, voiceless, is the exact moment you should be learning to listen to something else? Call on yourself. Maybe you've been trying to play God to control everything, predict everything, fix everything, win at everything. But what if the invitation is different? What if true spirituality is not about rising higher, but about descending from pride, descending from absolute certainty, descending from the need to always have the last word? Spiritual maturity begins when you realize you no longer need to prove anything. Not to the world, not to others, not even to yourself. You are not your role. You are not your success. You are not the applause you receive nor the rejection that wounded you. You are what remains when all of that is stripped away. And when you understand this, something shifts. The pain still exists, but it no longer rules you. The silence is still real, but it no longer frightens you, because within you, a fortress is born, not made of vanity, but of integrity, not sustained by applause, but by a quiet conscience. And so, little by little, you make peace with reality. You return to inhabit the place you had abandoned, the present, simple, imperfect, but true. The question that remains is, are you willing to let go of the internal war? Are you ready to step down from the ego's throne and finally rest on the solid ground of humility? Because sometimes, the greatest victory is simply to accept that pain is not punishment, silence is not rejection, and limits are wisdom in disguise. Lucifer fell because he refused his place, but you still get to choose yours and dwell in it with lightness, truth, and peace. There is no shame in being small. There is power in recognizing the exact measure of your own soul. The strong man is not the one who stands tall before the crowd, not the one who shouts the loudest, who demands attention, who chases applause. No, true strength reveals itself when no one is watching, when pride whispers, and yet you choose silence, when the ego begs for a stage, and you offer it anonymity instead. The strong man is the one who kneels not before others, but before his own ego, and he does it without an audience, without recognition, with only truth in his chest and maturity in his eyes. Lucifer fell because he craved the summit, because he believed his light was greater than the order, because he mistook brilliance for authority. But the truly wise, they rise not by climbing higher, but by descending down to the ground of humility, to the firm foundation of reality. And they discover that the highest place is often the one closest to the essence. The soul does not grow by ascending, it grows by bending. By acknowledging its excesses. By silencing its demands, by allowing itself simply to be. The soul's journey is not upward, is inward, and that path is narrow, silent, solitary. But it is there that you find the truths no one can take away, because everything that can be lost was never truly yours. If this story has touched something deep within you, if at any moment you saw yourself in Lucifer's shadows or in the light, you can still consider following this channel. Here, every story is a silent compass for the soul. We don't give ready-made answers, but we offer mirrors, words that don't shout but echo, truths that don't impose but liberate. Perhaps today, all you needed to hear wasn't advice, wasn't a solution, but just a reminder. You can still choose to step down before life forces you to fall, because sometimes the hardest fall is the only bridge to true ascent, and falling isn't always the end. It may just be the beginning of a more honest, more pure, more human return. Real light never comes from vanity. It comes from the courage to face the darkness within and not look away. So walk lightly, with less need to prove and more room to grow. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, remember, pride weighs heavy, but humility sets you free.